Perfect. Yeah. Love it.
I just started the recording so that our editor could take, because you just said a couple things that I loved and she'll piece it together. So I figured while we're talking, I'm just going to start the recording and she can pick and choose what she wants to use. So kind of how this will work, it's usually we try to keep them about a half hour. Everybody's attention span's very short nowadays. The full interview will be up on YouTube, but then our editor will take a portion of this and put it out on our podcast.
Perfect.
Okay. So you started out 10 years ago owning a salon, correct? I just want to make sure I'm right because
Oh, that honestly is the one thing I have never done in the industry. I've done everything else, but actually owned a brick and mortar salon.
okay. That's good to know because that's where I
But
was.
my fiance owns the salon, which is where I spend, half of my time coaching and then half of the time in the salon with him. So feels like ownership.
Um,
But his name is on the building.
gotcha. Love that. So welcome everybody. Today we have Bonnie with us, who's a speaker, a coach, an author, and audio influencer, and just an all-around amazing human who I'm sure you've seen on social media. She's popping up everywhere, and we were lucky enough to get her to spend some time with us today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love dialoguing together on leadership conversations that you guys are all about.
I think it's great. So on your website, I was doing a little digging before we jumped on here this morning, and it said that your big bright idea began 10 years ago, knowing that one of your greatest regrets in life would not being an entrepreneur. However, it sounds like early into your business ownership, you face what a lot of us face early on, which is the struggles of barely making it or surviving. So I'd love to kind of hear about your journey that brought you into the entrepreneurship lane.
Absolutely. Well, I started out as a hairstylist like everybody. So I've been licensed for 43 years this year. And worked behind the chair for a little bit. And there was this moment where I realized, okay, these things are not making it happen. And I've always kind of was interested in the business side of anything. So I thought there's got to be other avenues here. I love the industry. I love the creativity of it, but there's got to be other avenues. And I went down the path of working for distributors as a salesperson, working for manufacturers, working for the association, working for schools, working for multi-location salons, doing all of those things. And the last part of it was when I was at the association and I had this bright idea that I was going to really support educators, being able to get sourced for education. Because, and now mind you, this is pre-social media. So I was, people literally called me like the beauty madam, like call Bonnie, she'll hook you up with, to find somebody. So whether it was people needing artists for events, shows, photo shoots, things like that, I was like just hooking people up and doing that. And then social media came along and it just was like that I wasn't needed. People got really good, really fast at self-promoting, even though the self-promotion piece made it harder for them. Like somebody else giving you the testimonial, somebody else, sharing you up, always had more of an impact. But it did kind of make me look at the business model and say, all right, what do I want to do now? And that's when I kind of led more into the business side of coaching and got certified as a coach, and started really working with educators in how to promote themselves better, as well as salon owners of how to do business better. And yes, you're right, Sean. I had the struggles up and down all the way through. There are still days that I can wake up and be like, don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, we get it.
Absolutely. Say you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but you talk about finding your brand voice. So talk a little bit more about that because I think we hear the word brand or it's kind of just thrown around. And I think there's a lot of misconception of what a brand voice is. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So here was my biggest probably learning curve in being an entrepreneur was I was really good working for somebody. I could be the top salesperson. I was the go-getter. I was the team that was winning. And so I felt like I had what it took to be an entrepreneur. And when I went out on my own, I discovered how much different it was to sell myself instead of selling somebody else or something else. And I would never say that I'm a shy person or that I have any fear of putting myself out there. But boy, did that like throw me for a loop to be able to be like, oh my gosh, I have to talk about myself. I don't want to talk about myself. And I struggled. And so my ability to be able to grow my business was impacted by that. And that's when I kind of got introduced to a little bit of branding and marketing at that time. And again, mind you, this is early days where we had to do things very much, manually in all of this process. But I understood clearly that I had to have kind of that ability to be able to talk about what I offer, not just who I am. Like I was a conduit to it, but I had to be able to like deliver something in there that made it easier for me to communicate it to other people without it feeling like I was like going, and Bonnie does this and Bonnie does that. I can do it. Yes. I say yes to everything. Right. So that kind of got me over that curve to be able to like, okay, I get it. Branding was really just being able to define how I could help people. And I reference it as in my tagline of, I'm going to connect you to you so that you can connect better with others.
Mm.
Because most people would come to me and they wanted stuff. Give me stuff. And I'm like, that stuff is already inside of you. We have to just pull it out so that you feel confident to be able to do that. That was the transition I went through. I already knew what I needed to know. Of course, every day is a new learning curve and new learning lessons, but I knew what I knew. And now it was just confidently being able to put it out there.
I love that we're kind of going into this marketing conversation because this is an area that I feel that I do not excel and I do not have any strength at all in marketing. And you mentioned something on it's your SOS podcast, which is amazing, by the way. Everyone needs to check it out. And I love what you're talking about. The last one, the tide is coming in. And you were talking a little bit about social media, how there's been changes with that. And we have felt that in both our schools and salons. Can you elaborate on that and give your best advice of what we should all do?
I wish I had the magic answer for all of that, but I really try to have people understand that, especially because this also ties back into then my salon world. So when I'm in our salon and I'm coaching our own team, like you guys do within your businesses, you're coaching your team to be able to figure out what's it going to take for you to grow your business. The first thing that a lot of my clients or even my team comes up with is they go like this. They're like, I don't want to be on social media that much. Like, I don't do social media. I don't do Facebook and everything. And so I always say, but that's just a tool. That's just a tool. The most important thing is, can you communicate effectively? Are you actively listening? Do you have those emotional intelligence skills to be able to adapt in that conversation with somebody live and in person, no matter where it's at, in an elevator, at an event, in the chair, all of those things. And so I try to teach them that piece of it and then realize that social media just becomes another tool. I am telling you, the greatest success that we've had from our salon is going back to, advertising in an actual like community magazine.
Oh, wow.
Connecting with like-minded, businesses right around us to be able to share each other's things. I say that the best marketing you can do is especially if you're a brick and mortar business, is within 5 miles of your location. That's
Yeah,
it.
how do you advise your team to do that type of marketing? And I agree, I noticed the stylists that build quicker have stronger emotional intelligence skills as well as social skills, right? And so how do you advise your team to get better at marketing within the 5 miles of the salon?
It, we're going back to the olden days here. It's called a business card.
Mhm.
And I say two things. One, you have to have something on you because that physical transaction of transferring it to somebody else, it doesn't matter what they do with it. There's some memory recall in that process. Second, is we set them up with a digital card as well, which is just a picture that they keep on their phone. They just keep it in a folder on their phone. And then if they meet somebody or a client and they don't have a card on them, because, that happens a lot,
Mhm.
even to the best of us, is
Yeah.
that they can go into their photos, they can find that folder, they can find that digital business card, and then just text it to those people. So we'll do
Right.
that to help them kind of like create a referral type business as well.
I love that. You talked about the connecting in real life. And I think I'd love to hear some of your steps or how you would encourage, because obviously the younger people that are entering into this industry are very much phone in their face, and you put them in a room with people and it's awkward for them. It's very, very uncomfortable. And you said it perfectly when you said the elevator, because if you get on an elevator, everybody's on their phone with their head down. And I remember a long time ago, you would say hello to people, you would talk, you would engage, and it's very silent now. So
Yeah.
what are some steps or processes for people to work on being able to connect in real life?
Yeah, I mean, it's that natural being able to like naturally connect with people, even if it feels awkward or you're scared to be able to do it. I'm the person in the elevator that's like, "Hi, everybody, how you doing today?" I'm standing in line at the bank talking to the person in front of me and back of me or what. I just understood that that was a way to be able to connect. I'm also one of those people, Sean, that no matter where I'm at, people will come up to me and ask me questions. They'll be like, "Do you know where the olives are in the grocery store?" And I was offended by it at first because I'd be like, "Do I look like I work here?" But then I realized that that was my gift in life, that people felt safe enough to come to me and ask me these questions. And so then I realized that my gift in return was to be able to at least try to help them. So I would take the moment and I'd stop and I'd look up and I'd be like, "I'm going to say it's somewhere near the pickles, and that I know is like 3 aisles that way type of thing." So, I'm not walking them over there and doing all that stuff, but I'm trying to guide people in that way. So I just look for opportunities to help people really get their head up, look people in the eye, and even just practice making eye contact with people.
Mhm.
Even if you don't say anything or do anything, just to smile, make eye contact. But a compliment goes a long way, we're in the beauty industry. So you compliment somebody's hair, they're going to be like, "Oh gosh, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, I love my hairdresser." And it's like, "Oh my God, she does a fantastic job. You got to let her know that I'm a hairdresser too." So you let her know that from hairdresser to hairdresser, your hair looks great.
Hmm.
And then like, "Oh, well, where do you work?" And it just leads to that conversation. And we just have to get more comfortable on that. But you are so right. The younger generation is so much more fearful of that, in person, in real life connection that they need to have in order to be successful in our industry.
Yeah, speaking of which, we own cosmetology schools and would love to get your take on what you're seeing out there. What do you think cosmetology schools need to do better to prepare our future professionals for the industry?
Oh, mm. It's it's a it is a conversation that I think a lot of us, and then the salons that I network with here in the Atlanta market, it's a conversation that we have all the time of, are you getting any new leads? We're looking for some new assistants. Do you guys need some? Because if I get somebody, I don't need them right now. Can I pass them on to you? And we're sharing in that realm. I think the greatest fear that we're having is we still have to make the investment with them for at least 1 year. I know there's other people out there saying they can do it in 90 days. And maybe you guys are producing some high quality students, compared to what maybe we've seen in the last couple of years. COVID, post COVID, we're talking about. But their level of confidence is, they want 1 year of being in that shadow position, being in that assistant position before they're confident to start taking clients and everything. I wish we could accelerate it a little bit more. We have the right people, we have the right team to support that if that was the case. But their level of confidence of just being able to trust what they know, trust what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think, and what I'm hearing, is crazy that I'm hearing this. This is so silly. I just don't even, but most of them come out and be like, I don't know how to do men's haircuts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, that was always like in starting out, that was a go-to skill set that you had to have. Because, it was like, I'm from the generation of like, we worked in unisex salons.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, it was kind of the higher end feel that a man or a woman would feel very comfortable coming in. It was not the beauty salon era. I kind of transitioned into that unisex salon era. And so, we did a lot of men, and every salon that I talked to, they have, 20, 30, 40% clientele of men. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Great advice. And I agree. And I think part of it is also trying to help them to get better at social skills and emotional intelligence. I want to switch gears because you are the guru on emotional intelligence, and Sean and I do a lot of emotional intelligence training. I'm a consultant and a coach for that as well for a couple different companies. But I would love to hear, your training methodology with this, and what do you recommend that we do not only for salon stylists, but also for our students to help train them in that arena?
I think that that's such a great question to begin with. And I know how versed you guys are on emotional intelligence. So I love that this is really becoming more of a normal conversation instead of this thing. But I did recently have somebody say to me, and they're like, oh my gosh, no, we don't need more emotional intelligence. People are too emotional in this industry. And I'm thinking, okay, we still got some work to do. We still got some work to do here.
True.
But I really look at it from a standpoint of script, script and practice. Like, you just have to script it out sometimes and have them practice until they get comfortable saying it in their own way. So for me, it's a framework, just like emotional intelligence is a framework. It's a framework of being able to follow something, just like if you're going to teach them a haircut. This is where you start. This is how you navigate through it. That communication skill is the same thing. I need to provide them a framework so they feel like they can trust a process. And then once they kind of get comfortable with that process, they can make it their own. They can add their own authenticity and personality into it.
No, I love that. And I'm looking at your 5 questions that you asked yourself, and the 5 questions that, some of them really got me thinking. And number 4 specifically, do you know how to put that into a success strategy that would allow you to go from surviving to thriving?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the missing piece. I think a lot of salon owners are surviving right now because they are behind the chair full time, and they're working in their business, not on their business. They're not in the schools actively recruiting of what the next generation's going to look like. So what are some success strategies that you would recommend for salon owners, salon leaders to go from that surviving to thriving?
I like you guys talk about having like a 5-point system type thing. I talk about it from the 5 anchors. So it's like sales, operations, mindset, marketing, and education. Like one of those areas you are probably not putting attention to or are weak in. And it could be that you just don't know, you don't have the time, or you don't have the resources of being able to support that. And I always, and a lot of times it falls into the marketing area where we neglect marketing in there. But the truth is that I find it even like people don't understand just the strategy of sales. Like, do you know where you stand so that you can determine where you need to go? Like if this is where you're at this year, and you had, and you had all of these as resources to get you there, what needs to change if you want to get to here? Is it more resources? Is it working with the resources you have and spending time and investment on educating them to sell more to the people that they have? Or is it selling to different people or adding on different people, more team members? Because I've seen some salons going through a merry-go-round of people coming in with them for a year, leaving to go off and do an independent approach.
Yeah, why do you think that is? What is your best guesstimate? Why is that happening?
We're truly in this space of, everybody wants to be their own brand. Like we talked about earlier, like everybody has this idea that if I paint my walls and put my logo up on the wall, that I am my own brand.
Right.
And, and it's, that we're in that pattern where it's like, if 20 people have done it, 100 will do it. If 100 have done it, 1,000 will do it. So it's just the bandwagon that I think we're on right now. I just saw this post on there. Oh gosh, it was, I wanted to post so bad on it. I wanted to reply. I wanted to comment so bad, but everybody was really bashing salon owners. And I'll never go back and work in a salon again. Salon owners are the worst. I make so much more money, in my suite than I ever have and stuff like this. And then all I want to say to them is, but I want you to think about this. You will forever be a technician. So, the Michael Gerber book, The E-Myth,
Yeah.
the entrepreneur, the manager, the technician, you will forever be the technician. Plus you're trying to be the manager, plus you're acting like you're an entrepreneur. And some people are doing it really well, but you will forever be the technician if that's what you think. There's got to be a point where they have to shift their own mindset to believe that I'm either going to be doing hair for the rest of my life, which we know is not really feasible.
Right.
For most people, right? Or they have to transition into being a salon owner. So you have to be open to that, because that's the only way that they're going to grow and expand and be able to really, truly be the entrepreneurs when they have other people producing in an environment for them and with them.
Yeah.
So they can badmouth salon owners all they want, but there's an end point to their game with this style. And so again, it's going back to like sales and operations. Are they in a position to operate appropriately, not be taking texts 24/7 from clients just to book an appointment? Running to Cosmoprof to pick up that one color they need for this client because she's coming in at noon. That is not operating fully.
And something that keeps coming to my mind too, Bonnie, and I love that you said that, and it keeps coming to my mind, is be careful to not be in the short game, be in the long game. And so, and I think that's what's happening with, it doesn't matter what age people are, right? It's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because this is the short game.
Sure.
Like, I think we need to think a little bit bigger, and we need people really helping other people to see the big picture, right? Because not everyone has that vision that the three of us do.
Yeah.
And so how do you describe or inspire people to see the big picture and not be in the short game? We always say the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others.
Go with others.
So
Yeah.
how can you instill that in every human being?
Yeah.
What do you do?
You know, the culture, the environment of the culture is really important to have in that business in order for people to feel safe in it. We
Yeah.
know we've heard this, right? We've heard freedom, flexibility, financial, status. Like that's what this whole kind of generation is talking about. They want freedom, flexibility. We're creating that for them and we're letting them know that.
Yeah.
We tell them what we're doing, that is creating freedom and flexibility and
Good.
financial stability for them. And every day, we're telling them we're doing that. So when they see the ad out there that might kind of catch their eye and put a twinkle in their step of like, ooh, I could go over here. Look, freedom. I can book my own schedule. I can have financial, success over here. I'll make 100% of what I bring in instead of just 50% or whatever it is. And, but you're right that we have to continue to educate them. So we educate them in that way, but I see leadership as being probably, when we talk about sales, operation, mindset, marketing, and education is my anchors. Leadership is that piece that people still struggle with.
What's the struggle? What do you think is missing and what's the solution there?
There's such a fear of having a difficult conversation that that person is going to walk away. They're going to leave.
Yes.
And then, the other side of it is, but if you don't say something, their foot is already out the door. If you don't try to clean up or bring them back in, and I kind of reference leadership from a bridge status. This might be something you're familiar with. I mean, it was part of my training was that, if you and your business are on this side of the bridge and you have your team on the other side of the bridge, you don't have an effective business. You have a business that is eventually going to break down. The bridge is going to crack. And so what do you do as a leader to get them on your side of the bridge? And naturally, because we're all this, bunch of empaths in our industry and creatives, we want to run over to the other side of the bridge and say, well, good, I'm here. I'm on their side of the bridge now. What do I do? It's like, yeah, but your business is over there. And so they get stuck with thinking, well, how do I get them on my side of the bridge? And that is leadership. It's great emotional, intelligent conversations. It's empathy. It's all of those pieces that we know from this, EQ, EI space that we have to just keep implementing. And when you get more comfortable with that, there's a whole lot less fear in having those harder conversations with people.
Yeah. What if the salon owner keeps saying to you over and over again, I'm just so tired of having the same conversation with them.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
Then you haven't been in the conversation long enough. You're trying to get out of it too quickly because you haven't changed a behavior. If you stay in the conversation long enough to the point where they have taken some accountability and ownership of it, you've stayed in the conversation long enough. We want to get out of the conversation as quick. Oh, I see that you were late again today. Oh yeah. It was just, there's road construction. So, but I found another route. I'm going to be fine tomorrow. Okay, great. And they're gone. And then they show up late again and they show up late again. And it, whatever the excuses are, or the excuse of the day doesn't matter. It's a behavior and it's a pattern that now you have to have a bigger conversation, and we just don't stay in the conversation long enough.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to that in your SOS podcast, and you said, what are you tolerating? What are you finding that leaders are tolerating the most right now? What do you think is happening out there as you're coaching?
Oh gosh, just a undermining culture.
Hmm.
That, that somebody else is really leading the pack, and peers, there's always going to be this hierarchy feeling, if I'm the salon owner or the manager or the boss here, I'm going to trust my peers more than I'm going to trust you. So who is in that peer group that is actually leading? And figure that out pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And try to get them on your side of the bridge, because they could be your best asset in the right circumstance, or they're your worst if they're actually have more power and influence on your team than you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think as we start to end this out too, Bonnie, let's hit a little bit harder on that right now, because my gut feeling with that is there's not enough proactive coaching going on. There's not enough of check-ins, how are you doing? How are you really doing? And that real proactive coaching and evaluations and all of that, right? We call it one-on-ones, right, in our company. And I find a lot of times our staff is so tired of doing one-on-ones. I'm so tired. And I'm like, really? You're tired? And so then all of a sudden things start to crumble. That bridge is crumbling. And then people are starting to leave, and they're wondering, why are people leaving? Because you're not communicating with them. And so how do you have that conversation with them to start those conversations when you are coaching salon owners and leaders?
And you're right. You're absolutely right about that. Like, that is that we think we can lead the pack, but you can't. Not everybody's just ever so gently on a different level. That leading the pack sometimes is not always effective, but leading individuals to be leaders within the pack is more in line with that. So the one-on-ones are really critical. I did ask this question the other day, and I said, how often are you meeting with your team individually? And it was kind of my question of the month for my team, because I'm in one-on-ones with our team, and we call them journeys. I don't call them like reviews. We call them journeys, because what they have to bring to the table is, where do they want to go? Where do they want to go? And I kind of laid it out, it's like this fun little Canva thing that is a journey. And I put their numbers on it. They're, what I think are the significant numbers that they need to know where they stand and understand. But I'm always starting out with, what's your big I want to accomplish this year. And sometimes they'll say things like, I want to make more money. And it's like, okay, so you make more money. Where's that going? What is that? Is it because you need a home, a car, a savings? You want to take a vacation? Like, what is that money going to? And then they always go, oh yeah, home. Oh my gosh, I want to buy a home, type of thing. And over the last 3 years that we've been doing these journeys, we've watched 4 of our staff actually get a home, get new cars, start a family. And you know what? We're a part of that process with them, because we're really having them see that these things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it's all based on the very typical scenarios of what we all understand running salons is, you have to be able to rebook. You have to be able to increase frequency. You have to be able to sell retail. You have to be able to do, certain amount of have certain amount of skill sets in order to attract the clients that are coming to you.
Yeah.
It's the same. All of that's the same. But, how they get there might vary up a little bit, and what empowers them and excites them, to stay on it.
How often do you recommend one-on-ones?
I try to do, if it's somebody that's been with us for a year or two, we're talking 2 or 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
In that space. If it's somebody that's been with us, we're checking in with them twice a year. But, the newer person is kind of like also an onboarding process. Let's see where you're at. what do we need to do? Is there something that we need to customize or personalize for you to help you, expand and build a clientele a little bit faster? What can you do? Here's what we can do, kind of thing. So onboarding to journeys, once a quarter at least.
Yeah, and I love that individualized, and that's where kind of Sean and I went this year. We're like, how often do you want to meet with us? But then also if we start to see them slipping in their behavior, let's say,
Oh,
then
yeah.
it's like, oh, let's get it back on track. We need to start meeting again.
And
What's going on?
that has to happen fairly quickly in our industry, even though our
Yeah.
industry is set up that it's not easy to do that. They're between clients, they don't
Right.
have time in the day, but you have to find that 5 minutes even and be really efficient with a great conversation, even if you only have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Love that. So how can I mean, this conversation could go on forever. You've been
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we will definitely have you back. So be looking out for
Thank you.
for part 2. But how can people find you and sign up for your coaching?
One of the things, if you guys are open to me sharing this, is I'm launching a Ultimate Leaders course in August. So I've been working diligently on doing this. It's powered, with an organization, Southwest Institute for Emotional Intelligence. So I'm kind of taking on what they've invested an enormous amount into and then bringing it to the beauty industry. So that's kind of, the big thing that I'm really launching, and that's going to be eventually it's, SOS Leadership Academy is where they can find it. But obviously SOSsaloncoaching.com is, kind of the mainstay that they can find what I'm about and what I'm doing. And then all the resources, blogs, podcasts, courses, events kind of can filter out from there. But yeah.
Outstanding. And you're going to be all over the place this year too. So
I'm very excited. I'm
Love it.
heading to Data Driven, the Pennsylvania show, the Salon Training Pennsylvania show, Premiere, IBS Las Vegas. It's like the one year that, getting back, like things just start happening. So I'm excited about that.
thank you,
Love
Bonnie.
Thank
you
you
so
guys.
much.
You're awesome. Appreciate you both.
Bye-bye.
Have a great rest of your day.